Alright, so number 5 asks us to graph of, and then they give us this here, y equals x plus 2 squared minus 4. There's already a graph on there, right? But this is what we call the mother function. So this is mom. So the most basic parabola, if we were to graph it, is y equals x squared. So if I graphed y equals x squared, then I get that parabola which matches up with the parabola that's there. And so what happens is that if you then throw other numbers in there, right? So if you look at mom, and we say the mother function because we say that everything else comes from this. So if you put other numbers in there, so I throw a 2 in there, I throw in a minus 4 in there, how does that change the graph? So that's what we want to look at in this question. Just as a little kind of experimentation, even before I tell you, you can just kind of play with it. So I don't know, let's say I threw, let's do x squared minus 4, right? Because that's what the problem says. It says minus 4. So let's see what that does. Well, there's the original parabola. Oh, okay. It looks like it moved it down, right? So the vertex where it bottoms out is a little bit lower. Where do you think it bottoms out? Well, it looks like -1, -2, -3, -4. So then I can say, well, so maybe that's what the last number does. Maybe it moves the parabola up and down. Maybe to test my little theory, what if I change that to a +4 instead of a -4? My expectation is that the parabola, instead of moving down 4, is actually going to move up 4. So let's see if that works out. So there's mom, there's the original. Oh, okay, and so that's what did happen. It looks like the parabola shifted up 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. So what this form is what we call vertex form. And so there's a couple things, and we'll kind of go through here and define what each one of these things means. But basically what this says is that this tells you this moves, right? This k right there moves the parabola up or down the y-axis. Right, that's what we just noticed. It didn't move it left to right at all, it just moved it up or down. So I'm already thinking that that -4 is going to mean that it's going to move it down 4. Now there's another thing happening here, which is there's a 2 in there. So let me go back to my little experiment here. So we'll clear this out. And so let's just do the x plus 2 part. So we're kind of doing each part individually, then we'll go back and look at the whole thing as one piece. So we'll say x plus 2 squared, and let's see what that does. Okay, there's mom, there's the original. Oh, okay, what happened this time? Well, looks like the parabola shifted to the left, and it looks like it shifted, maybe kind of hard to read this or see it, but it shifted over 1, 2. Now, you might have kind of thought, well, if it's a +2, wouldn't that mean it would go to the right? Well, let's kind of test that. So if I wanted to do, what if I made this and we'll leave the same one on there. I don't know, what if I said x minus 5 squared? If a +2 moved it 2 to the left, then I'm thinking that a -5 would move it 5 to the right. So let's test that and see what that does. Oh, okay, so it did. It moved it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the right. So it looks like what's happening here is that it looks like it's the opposite. Whereas for the y, if this last number is positive, it moved it up. If that last number is negative, it moved it down. Here, though, it looks like what's happening is the opposite, which is that if a positive 2 actually moved it 2 to the left. So you'll notice that on here, where it says x minus h, to represent whatever that number is, it ends up moving the number, right? So this moves left to right. Right, so this number moves our parabola up and down, that number moves our parabola left or right. And so what it looks like ends up happening is that whatever this number is in the back, it just stays the same. So if it's a positive, it moves it up, right? So we'll say positive moves it up, and a negative moves it down. But what we noticed, it was actually kind of an opposite relationship here, which is that what moves something left was actually a positive number, so we'll say opposite, and then what moved something right was actually a negative number. So let's kind of put all this together then. So what I'm thinking is that that's going to say down 4, and then this is going to say right 2. I'm sorry, not right 2, right, because we're thinking opposite. It's going to move it left 2. So we'll say left 2. So what I'm thinking, and I'm actually going to go ahead and graph it, and then I'll check it with the calculator. So I'm thinking that says left 2, so I'm going to move left 2, and I'm going to move down 4, and then I'm going to have some parabola that maybe looks like that. So let me check. This isn't cheating, by the way, using the calculator. It's using a tool that you have available to you. Really, we're just checking our work here. So let me go ahead and type the whole thing in. So x plus 2 squared, and then minus 4, and then I want to compare. So there's mom, and then, okay, yeah, that looks right. So it looks like what happened there is that the parabola got shifted over 2, and then down 4, which is what we did here, over 2, down 4. So what ends up happening with this is that it ends up being, just kind of summarize here. So the vertex, right, the vertex is the turning point. So let me rewrite the original question here. So the quantity x plus 2 squared minus 4. And then so what it ended up happening is that this ended up being our x and y of the vertex. So this ended up being the x, this ended up being the y of the vertex. So this actually ended up just keeping it the same. So a negative 4 means down 4. This one ended up being the opposite. So a positive 2 actually ended up at a negative 2. So for our vertex here, we've got a negative 2 and then negative 4. Right? When we refer to the axis of symmetry, we're just saying the line that splits the parabola in half, right? Because it's kind of a mirror image of each other on each side. So it splits it through x equals negative 2. That's just what splits the parabola. And on this particular question, we're actually not going to worry about switching this over to standard form. We'll talk about standard form in one of the other problems, right? But this was a good example of using your calculator, even if you didn't know what the answer was. Start throwing stuff into the calculator and experiment with it and see if you can notice the pattern yourself, right? All right, so go ahead and stop here and try number 5 on the right side.